Oh my God, we are back with yet another episode of Grindhouse Chic. As always, I am Robert Schneider, and as of right now, joined by the timely one, the one who can make it when we start recording, Matt Armstrong. Matt, how has your week been?
Not too bad. Got to watch some movies. Pretty busy other than that, but good. How's yours?
It's been going pretty good. What have you been watching?
Uh, I was trying to knock a couple off my Hooptober. I watched Pet Cemetery, the new one, and
Ugh.
good God.
I've never seen it. I just don't
Uh,
know why they needed to make yet another version of it.
yeah. There's this like constant running thing going where there's this like how like sometimes horror movies will do the jump scare where it's like a semi truck going by with like the horn blowing real loud to like
Yep.
scare you.
Yep.
I started keeping a running tally in this movie and it happened 6 times.
Yeah, that's five too many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um what else did I watch? I watched The First Birds.
Okay. We'll talk about that later because
Yeah.
on tonight's episode we are going to be talking about two movies, two sequels, Birds Two, Land's End, and Pearl, which is not a sequel; it's a prequel. But we'll get to those later in the show. Um, and we'll talk about you watching Birds, which is unnecessary to watch to enjoy Birds Two, Land's End, except
Yeah.
for a little mention in that movie.
Yep.
And Tippi Hedren being in both of them, playing different characters.
Yep.
All right, what else? Have you watched anything else?
Um I started watching that Dahmer show on Netflix. I kept hearing everyone saying like the first 2 episodes were like terrifying and made me feel so unsettled I couldn't go to sleep. And I don't think it's that bad. It's like
It's
well made.
it's Ryan Murphy, the creator of Glee and American
Oh,
Horror
is it?
Story. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I like Ryan Murphy. I like some of the scenes of American Horror Story. I like the show Hollywood that he did with that was on Netflix. That I actually thought that was really good. But I don't really care about a miniseries about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. I like horror movies. I like true crime, but Jeffrey Dahmer was such a horrible person. I don't see the reason to give him his story to be told over and over again,
Right. Yeah.
unless it's something completely original like the graphic novel, which I read, in the movie I have not seen, My Friend Dahmer, which explores it from a whole different angle.
Well, this one kind of does. It's at least from what I've seen so far, it's kind of telling the story through um hmm, thought I saw something flying around behind me. Um it's kind of a I feel like the first episode kind of told the story through like one of the victims, and the second episode seems like it's kind of telling the story like through his dad.
Okay.
So if that continues, I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I do think it's kind of I don't want to see just like Jeffrey Dahmer sit there and tell us what happened.
It's also 10 episodes.
I did notice that, yeah,
That's a
and they're like
lot.
an hour each.
Yeah, I still haven't made it through 3 episodes of The Sandman, and I've been waiting 20 plus years for that show.
Is it
Uh,
not good?
no, it's good. It's too faithful to the comic. It's like 90% faithful, and I'm like, I've read this. Why am I watching this?
Hmm.
I'd rather watch something different. And it's weird when The Boys premiered. I had the complaint that it wasn't faithful enough to the comic. So I guess I'm a hypocrite when it comes to comic book adaptations. So
Yeah,
you want
the boys is good though.
Boys is fantastic. Once you get past the fact that Simon Pegg doesn't play Wee Huey, Huey, and plays his dad. All right, what else have you watched?
Um, I think that might be it that I can remember.
Man, I have spent watched way too much this week. Um, Beside watching Birds 2, I I have been digging deep into the Steckler box set. I have watched the first 5 movies, which comprise the first 4 discs, and I enjoyed 3 of them immensely. The one I've seen before is just okay, and then one of them is complete and utter shit. I
Well,
mean,
that's good to hear that a lot of them are good though.
they're good for what they are. So the one I thought was complete and utter shit was the Lemon Grove Kids Meet the Monsters, which is
Okay.
basically him just doing the Bowery Boys / East End Kids, and I just found it boring. I mean, it was like 70 some minutes that was completely and utterly boring. 78 minutes. But the other movie on that disc, Rat Think a Boo Boo, might be one of the greatest things I have ever seen.
Rat think a boo boo.
The music in there is just incredible. Like I went and found the artist on Spotify and have been listening to it pretty much nonstop. But
What is it? What's it?
it's just like early 1960s rock and roll, kind of
Okay.
in the vein of Gene Vincent. Just really good and entertaining, and it's just weird. Rat Finkabooboo starts off as a crime kidnapping film that halfway through becomes a comedy superhero film,
Hmm.
and then in the
Nice.
end he fights a gorilla.
Okay. All right. I'm in.
Wild Guitar, which is the first movie on that set, I'm just enamored with it. It's always weird when you get a box set. The first movie I think really needs to grab you to enjoy the rest of it. Like for the Al Adamson set, the documentary just pulled you in, and you buy into what he is and what his vision was for his films.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing more painful than the Andy Milligan set might be the Doris Wishman films that Agfa's been putting out. I've only watched the third disc, or the first disc, the Twilight Years, and man, has that been painful.
Really.
Yeah, I'd rather be killed by the Bigfoot in Night of the Demon. Actually, I would rather have Bigfoot rip off my dick than watch some of those Doris Wishman films. So bad, so freaking bad.
Prove it.
No, no. And then, yeah, but like again, I the only movie I've seen of his was The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living Became Mixed Up Zombies, and I always thought that movie was boring. And based on that film alone, I don't think I would have bought the set. But the promo that Severin created for it just made this a must buy, and I'm really glad I went down this rabbit hole because this might be my release of the year.
Hmm. Are you wishing you would have bought the mask?
No, what am I going to wear? A cash flag mask?
You could be wearing it right now.
Yeah, no, no. it, it's weird. Is it weird that Severin doesn't sell their stuff doesn't sell out that fast?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like with Vinegar Syndrome. You have to buy it on day one or hour one, or there's a chance that you might not get it, even
Right.
though that has not been the case at all lately.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like they really started bumping up the numbers. And I don't think the new ones even have numbers on them, do they?
I have no idea. Now that you brought it up, what do you think of the 4 releases that have been announced?
Well, obviously one of them I'm super happy about, Roadhouse.
Why are you happy about it?
It's just been like it's been my favorite movie for like I'm gonna say like 20 years probably.
Okay.
And it's not because it's like a good movie, it's not because it's well made. It's just a movie I can watch even multiple times a day and I can still enjoy it every single time. And I have like really good memories with it. When I got my first apartment, my younger brother moved in with me, and then his friend moved in with me, and then we just became like obsessed with it. We were watching it like every single day, quoting it like whatever we did in life, pretty much. Which
Well,
sounds not cool. I get it.
well, here's the thing. I don't think Roadhouse is a bad movie. It does have Terry Funk from ECW, WCW. I'm sorry, WWE Hall of Famer Terry Funk, also known as Chainsaw Charlie. But
He is unrecognizable in that movie.
no, no, he isn't.
From when I first started seeing him in wrestling, he was like an old man.
He was an old man when this movie came out, even though he was probably 40 something.
Right, yeah.
I mean, he's fought a lot of battles in Japan and against Mick Foley. But on the first episode of ECW, when he came out as the color commentator, they played a scene of him in Roadhouse.
Did they?
Yeah.
Which one?
Uh, he was what, in like maybe 6 scenes in the movie, 7 scenes? I mean, he wasn't a massive
He was
character.
in pretty much every bar fight, and he and he had this big scene where Sam Elliott gets introduced also.
That wasn't the scene. And I haven't seen Roadhouse probably in 10 years.
Ooh, we know what episode's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk about it. It's so we've touched upon it on the show before, but every time they release something like that, and look, here's the thing: it's going to make them money. It's going to make them a ton of money. It's going to bring
Right.
new people to the label, and that's a good thing. But anybody could release Roadhouse.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and
I agree. I am interested to see what Vinegar Syndrome does with the it looked like there was some brand new like um big big making of documentary they were putting together or something.
that's great. But again, anyone could do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's the problem I have with it is not everyone would release Thriller, A Cruel
Mhm.
Picture. Not everyone would release Cloak and Dagger. But Roadhouse is the most mainstream thing they have put out or will be putting out. And
Right.
again, good for them, but because of
Yeah.
that, they become a little bit less of a special label and they become Shout Factory Light.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the one thing too where it's we've talked about it a lot of times where it's they are kind of going down this road where they're just re-releasing movies and it's kind of going away from what they were. Um and one thing I was going to say, I don't remember how much like because I think before Thriller was the most expensive one, like single release they had put out, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but with Thriller, you got 2 4Ks of
Hmm.
2 cuts of the movie, and then you got a shitload of documentaries and commentaries. Like, Thriller is a dream package.
Hmm. Yeah, now, Roadhouse, it's a 4K, you're just getting one movie. Um and it's $40. I mean, that's a lot.
Was it $40 before discount?
Yes, so it's got the $65 crossed out and then 39.99 next to that. So if you're a subscriber, it's what 32, I think,
Yeah,
33.
yeah.
Which still, I mean, that's a lot of money for a movie that someone might have got. Definitely not me, like 5 or 6 times already.
This will be the second time I own it. I think I own it on Blu-ray. Like I bought it at Best Buy in one of the bargain bins.
Oh, sounds like you got hell of a deal.
Yeah, well, I'm now paying for it. But I mean, when Shout Factory put it out, it was like, I have it on Blu-ray. I don't need another version of it.
Hmm.
Like, let me ask you this: how often do you go to the extras?
Um, I mean, usually on the movies that we've been watching on here, I've been going to them. Um, but I mean, usually not.
Yeah, I very rarely like. I will say on the Steckler stuff, I've been watching all the extras because
Yeah,
I'm interested because there's no documentary. I'm interested in the person that he is, and I'm trying to get his story.
right.
And little by little, I'm getting it from the extras that they have on there. But like today, when I watched Birds 2 Lands End, I started watching You Don't Remake Hitchcock, and when I saw it was an hour, I'm like, you know what? I can't devote any more time to this movie.
I did watch that entire uh thing, and it was not good either. The people they got to interview were they had one actor, and it was
One
the
of the
youngest
kids,
daughter. Yeah, the
yeah.
youngest daughter. They had like an assistant producer and the guy who made the uh the birds.
Oh, they didn't even get the director.
Nope.
He's probably
Apparently
cute.
that they were saying the director was like ashamed of this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. He put the Alan Smithy credit on there.
Yeah, they were talking about that. So,
I mean, he should also be ashamed for Halloween Resurrection, but his name's on there.
mhm.
But no, I mean, Roadhouse is just.
So I'm looking at it now, and I am seeing that they took that huge special making of documentary off of here that was on here before.
I didn't see anything. I just saw extras to be announced later.
Yeah, they originally were talking about a brand new documentary, making of documentary, and it's
How
not
could
on
you
here
have a
now.
making of documentary when you can't interview the Sways?
You can interview Sam Elliott. He was sweet.
They can't afford to interview Sam Elliott.
Is Ben Gazzara still alive?
No, I don't think so.
No. Man.
Terry Funk is still alive, and I would watch an interview with him.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched that.
And if they put an hour of his best matches from some of the obscure promotions, I'd watch that as well. Um, I'm also going to tell you the other movies that they are releasing: The Invisible Maniac, the Hong Kong film directed by Ringo Lam, and all the films on the Homegrown Horrors. I have never heard of any of these films before.
Yeah, me neither. I keep seeing like everyone requesting Invisible Maniac in the groups. I've never heard of it. So I mean, I guess that's cool that, out of maybe they listened and got the people what they wanted. I don't know if that's what happened, but that's cool. The Burning Paradise I think looks really cool.
Well, it's directed by Ringo Lam, who directed City on Fire, which is one of the films that Tarantino ripped off to do Reservoir Dogs,
Okay.
which I'm hoping that Vinegar Syndrome or someone will release down at some point. But I'm excited about those because all these movies once again live up to what the promise Vinegar Syndrome was
Hmm.
is. And by the way, if you go on YouTube, you can find a trailer for The Invisible Maniac, and that movie looks cringy as hell.
Do you have
Yeah,
any guesses for the two secret ones?
man, I keep on hearing Caligula,
I saw that, yeah.
and I really hope that's not the case because that movie is so fucking boring. And the two Caligula exploitation films that Severin released earlier this year are probably a little better because there's actual fucking in there. Oh, there's actual fucking in Caligula, but it's not like any of the main actors. It was porn actors that Bob Guccione brought in to spice up the film
Yeah.
because he knew it sucked.
Yeah, hopefully it's something good.
Yeah, but you know what? It's probably going to be Caligula, and the other will
Yeah.
probably be. I don't know what the other one will be, but I'm sure it'll be good. Now, based on all the releases of this year, are you going to subscribe again?
Yeah, probably. I think I think this was a really good year. I think it's going to be hard unless they um the rumors are true and they introduce some kind of, like pay as you go kind of thing, or like do like 3 months at a time or something. But it's usually hard for me to do the full subscription.
I save up it right as soon as the other
Yeah.
sale. I put money aside for.
Well, it just seems like as soon as October and November hit, it's just like every company and website wants to have a sale. So I'm just like jumping into every single one, and then by the
Oh,
time Vinegar Syndrome hits,
you can't do that. Like, have you taken advantage of the Kino sale?
I've got a cart full of stuff. I'm gonna sit on it for a day or two and go back in and start hacking stuff out.
I have one movie in there.
What do you have?
The movie Pretty Smart with Patricia
Mm,
Arquette. I used to watch it all the time when it was on USA Up All Night,
mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty excited by it. Once he turns his camera on, Brian Baldwin has finally joined us.
I've got 27 items in mine.
What the fuck? Are you trying to get free shipping for a year?
No, I just like to kind of throw everything in and then go back and
All right. Brian,
really decide.
how is life in Hanoi?
Hello.
All right, I am sorry for the inside joke. We've just been bullshitting about sales and the new Vinegar Syndrome announcements. But you know what? We have a lot to talk about tonight. We are talking about two sequels. We are talking about a sequel and a prequel. But let's start off with the sequel. Birds 2 Land's End. Fun fact about it, it is not a commercial for the Land's End clothing company.
Oh, that takes away some of it for me.
And
It could have been.
yeah, this movie could have been a lot of things.
Longer.
Well, yeah, because it ended so fucking abruptly. Where are they going? The mainland. All right, I gotta say,
Yeah.
the main actor, it was bothering me throughout the whole film that he reminded me of somebody, and I realized he's a lesser version of Josh Brolin. But at the time, Josh
can see
Brolin
that.
would have been like 18 years old. So he's probably the actor Josh Brolin modeled his career after. And by modeled, he's like, I will not be in a Hitchcock sequel ever. And Brolin has committed to that.
You know what? You know which character was driving me nuts, and it still is. Like I literally we just finished up the film about half an hour ago, and I haven't had time to do any kind of looking up on nothing. But the guy who played Frank,
Frank.
Ted's wife's boss.
James Naughton, who was the star of the short-lived Planet of the Apes television series. His brother David Naughton was in he had a hit single called Making It, which was also turned into a television show, and he was a star of American Werewolf in London.
There we go. Okay.
And, hold on, James Naughton was the voice of Jeep when I was writing Jeep commercials, so I've worked with him a couple times.
Oh, okay.
That's my personal connection to him.
Brian, you might know him from The Devil Wears Prada.
The movie or the band? I'm just kidding. I have actually never watched Devil Wears Prada, nor do I like the band, The Devil Wears Prada. So.
Well, you know what? He was in a bunch of stuff. He was in Odd Mom Out, the TV series that I've never heard of. He was on an episode of The Blacklist. 10 episodes of the original Gossip Girl. Good for him. Let's just say his career, 2 episodes of Law and Order, Special Victims Unit. Probably played a rapist.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what? He was this movie was filled with horrible characters. And I don't know who was worse, him or the mayor/doctor, but man, 5 minutes after the wife started working at the newspaper, he started sexually harassing her.
Yes, heavily. And it's odd that like the movie doesn't lead you in the direction whatsoever of being like, oh, this slime ball. It almost tries to sympathize, especially with the wife, but like it kind of characterizes Frank as almost like this, the rebellious romantic interest of the forgotten housewife. You know what I'm saying? It feels like very much like, are we supposed to like this dude? Or like being all invested in them getting together? No. They lost a fucking child together.
No,
struggling.
All right, so let's go to the plot. A family who lost a child 5 years before this movie took place. And you know what? I don't know. I've never lost a child. I don't know how long it takes to heal, but they haven't healed yet. They're going on summer vacation where the wife is working. I guess the dad is working too on something. And they have two
He's a
daughters.
biology teacher, and he's writing his thesis, right?
Yeah, that's right. And he has two daughters who are upset that they have no television. As soon as they're arriving on the ferry, the birds start attacking slowly, and then it speeds up gradually as the film goes on and on and on and on and on.
Boy, you guys are gonna totally disagree with me.
I'm gonna. Let's just say, some of my notes. The only scary thing in the movie is James Naughton's constant sexual harassment of Chelsea Fields' character. Chelsea Fields in real life is married to Scott Bakula from Quantum Leap, and I bet the entire time she was filming this, she wanted to leap into a better movie.
That was a good one, Robert.
Do you guys know who the actor that I'm talking about that has her exact same face?
She looked familiar to me, but again, I didn't have time to look anybody up.
Man, I was actually looking it up and I could not find the actor, but I can like picture him. He always seems to play like the same like kind of like cop role maybe.
Who are you talking about? Which actor?
I can't think of his name, but
No, I mean which character in the movie?
Chelsea Field has the same exact face. It's like someone faced off and put this guy's face onto hers. It's like so similar.
I don't know much of what else she's been in. According to my research, she starred with her husband on CSI, whatever CSI he was on. But
well, to clarify, Matthew, you're saying his face on hers. You're speaking of a male actor who just looks very similar to her. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But she was in some pretty good movies. She was in Commando.
Oh, okay.
She was in the Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans' Last Boy Scout, Masters of the Universe, Death Spa, Dust Devil, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, and Snapdragon.
I don't know what that last one is either.
She was also in Murder COD or Murder COD, Cash on Delivery, and the Lou Diamond Phillips Scott Glenn classic, and movie that Matt has on his want to watch list, Extreme Justice.
I thought you were going to say You've Got Mail.
We talked about that last week. We are not talking about that.
I've got many questions on why anyone would have a Lou Diamond Phillips movie on their to watch list.
So one thing I know, one thing I noticed when I joined Letterboxd,
outside of La Bamba, I'll forgive La Bamba.
What about Lou Diamond Phillips was in a lot of good movies. I think
he was.
He played Richie Valens in a film. Oh, La Bamba. No, he was La Bamba.
Young Guns.
I am stupid.
Young Guns and Young Guns 2. Done.
All right. So back to the Birds 2 Land's End. You know what? I have nothing good to say about this movie.
I liked it.
How?
Well, when it first started, it took me back because I didn't know that it was you said it was a made for Showtime?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that it was like made for Showtime or TV in general, and then I saw like the aspect ratio and I saw just like what it looked like, and it made me go back like back to the 90s. Like it reminded me of watching like It on TV. So I really like that aspect right from the bat. And I know I always say like nostalgia is like the biggest piece of shit, but I always like it. So
Yeah,
good thing number one right there.
I must admit, I had a tremendous amount of fun with it. I was invested in the characters, which is something that I did not think was going to happen for me whatsoever. I love the gradual ramp up that this movie has. I'm okay with a lot of I'm assuming you guys were probably, or especially Robert, were pointing out the runtime because, it is pretty slow paced towards the beginning. Again, though, those characters, I was invested enough to where I didn't feel it. And then I did personally have a blast when the movie kind of exploded, if you will. Especially we have a scene with the two daughters in the room, and they're letting in a pet bird that they had rescued earlier in the film.
Egbert.
And then we really start getting
the bird's name was Egbert.
Yes. And then we really start getting I'm sorry, you said that like he was going to be in a million other films or something. His filmography is the film really starts to ramp up at that point. Like all these hundreds of birds are flying in this fucking room, and it gets, to us who watch these films, I guess it's a little zany, a little over the top, but I still really very much enjoyed it, and I thought it had a wonderful payoff at the end for some characters. I do agree that it ended I laughed when the credits started rolling, because I'm like, okay, there we go. It doesn't really offer much of an explanation in this film. All it really does say is that, nature only takes it so much before it bites back, kind of a deal. I'm okay with that too, though. It's just simple, just birds killing fucking people. I'm all right with it. And there was some pretty good gore, I think, for the type of film that it was.
I'll tell you, the best thing in there was when the guy shot the seagull and it exploded.
Yes.
With the flare gun.
Yeah. All right. So I am personally not a fan of the when animals attack genre. But when that genre works, I wanted to bring something new to it. This movie brought nothing new. In fact, it was basically a retread of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, which is a film I don't like either. But it's nowhere near as masterful as the original. I'm also going to say one thing that really, really made me angry was when the mom was talking to dad, or this happened before 20 some years ago in California, and nobody heard of it.
That would have been Bodega Bay.
That would have been one of the biggest stories ever. People would have been on high alert. Birds would have been exterminated because of that. So it wouldn't happen again.
That when that part came up, I actually my initial plan, like I was telling you guys last week, was to watch these consecutively. And of course, nothing ever goes right because, time is meaningless and we're all just going to fucking die. But anyway, I didn't get around to watching the first one. And when that line came up, I was kind of hoping like, man, maybe there was something in the film about the obscurity on Bodega Island and why no one else knew about it. Can you guys clarify on that at all for me? Like, what was the explanation in The Birds about why it was happening?
In the first one?
They didn't give one.
There wasn't one.
They didn't give one? Okay.
The only thing they touched on was all of the women in the town said that nothing started happening until the Tippin character showed up, and that was it.
And here's the thing: it's sometimes better not to give an explanation because you can lose the audience with one.
Sure. Yeah. Keep it obscure, just kind of, or not obscure. You know what I'm talking about. Just the simple fact of like, this is just killer birds at the end of the day. And the simple little throw in of like nature. We're destroying, because there's tons of shots in this film of like birds covered in oil that were found in the ocean and up on the shores and stuff like that. So you can get the picture really clearly without a ton of explanation. And I appreciate that with this one, where it's more about let's dive into the characters and let's get more into some character depth instead of wasting everybody's time with a plot that we've seen a million times. Like,
but they really didn't get into much character depth. We had to read a lot into it. So what we know about the family, they lost their son.
What happened there, by the way? Was he like ramping a monster truck that exploded?
They did
yeah,
not.
I wasn't really. I wasn't sure how to piece that together. I just put it as a car crash.
Yeah.
But then of course you do have the son the whole time, like over that, like, Dad, help. Which I guess you could take it in one way of like that's literally just his dream, like his kid
Right.
screaming out to him for help and he can't help him. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought all the characters were one dimensional. Like I had no care if anything happened to the dad or mom. When Frank started kissing her, I'm like, I don't care. It was creepy,
Really?
but I didn't care. I had no investment in these characters, and that was a problem. And the other biggest problem I have is why didn't Tippi Hedren's character? Why didn't she play the same person that she played in Birds 1?
It didn't bother me, but
I think she
yeah.
went crazy at the end.
Yeah, and you know what? 20 years later, she's running a general store on the other side of the country because it happened on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Because at that point there could have been like the Jamie Lee Curtis character in the Halloween, just somebody who was there who could offer a little bit more exposition instead of what we got from a throwaway line.
I do feel like I was more invested in the characters in this one than the original, though. I don't know if it was just like the family aspect or because you're right, it doesn't really like go into a lot, but yeah, I mean, I was pissed when Frank started creeping.
Oh, dude. Well, go ahead, because I feel like I'm about to bring something up that's going to take a little bit of a turn.
But here's the thing: Frank was an unnecessary character. He was there for one thing, to try to act heroic at the end, but he didn't really.
Yeah.
Brian, please go
And
ahead.
I personally don't want to. Well, I don't want to keep batting on this because it's okay that we all know that sometimes we view movies through a different lens than someone else, and that's okay. I look at the whole angle of you saying Frank is like a not necessary character in the film. I personally think it was like when you take the film in regards as a whole, where I feel like they were kind of trying to use the extent of their budget towards the end for like kind of a good heavy amount of like craziness, all these fucking birds and a little bit of gore. So I actually appreciate their attack of taking it like, okay, we'll sort of like build this like a bit of a drama thriller, for a little bit, and then kind of turn it more into a horror film the more it goes. So that's sort of the attack I've seen on that.
I have no problem with him, but if you take him out of the equation, it doesn't change anything in the movie. Where his last line is, I can't leave because I need to get that shot.
I agree. I think them trying to make him a hero. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. We all thought he was the most, disgusting character in the movie aside from the mayor. Like, I think, anyway, I was going to bring up the fact that there is a dog in this movie.
Scout.
Our audience probably knows where this is going, so you have been warned.
That was my first thought.
Scout. And I am going to be what I assume will probably be the first person. I want us to be the first person, the first channel brave enough to admit it. I cried. That dog.
Yeah, Scout was the best written character in the movie.
Yes. My wife refused to, she's seen me getting all upset. She's getting upset. And after every line that would come on, she's like, you were a good dog, and you still will be after you get back from the vet. Like we were just commentating over it, like adding lines. Oh, God.
Yeah, the first scene when they first walked in the house and the dog went in, I was like, oh, this fucking dog better not die.
Yep. And you know what's coming. I know what's coming. Every fucking film like this we ever watch, it always dies.
It was very confusing though, because it showed like the birds like eating him, and then they carried him into the house, and there's a shot of them when they get in the house, and Scout's just like jumping around on the couch all fine and dandy, and then cut to buried the dog.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa, what?
Oh man.
Yeah. Did it seem all right? Did it seem to you, because this movie was post Twin Peaks, that they tried to make the city as weird and kooky as possible?
It was pretty kooky, yeah.
I mean, again, I haven't watched as much. I've only seen the first season thus far, but yeah, I would agree with that. Like the townspeople are all like, I really like how they tried to reel in like almost like a Jaws angle of like, these people are fishermen. And if they lose their bit, and a few tourists, that's what gets us by every year. And if we lose that, everybody leave. It made no sense why everyone's following this kooky ass doctor / mayor
/ drunk.
Yeah, exactly. He's always in the bar. Hey, you want to see the doctor? Don't go to his office. Go down to the fucking tavern. Like that's where he's at.
His office. Yeah. He's not. It would have been better if he was like Fonzie, where his office was in the bathroom. Hey. So before we wrap it up and go to our next film, this movie, the director disavowed it by turning it into an Alan Smithy film. So
I'm not super familiar with that term. What does that mean?
So Alan Smithy is when a director wants no credit for the movie.
Okay.
And it's a term used. It's the name people give a movie like that.
Okay. Did not know that.
Me neither. Alan Smithy?
Yep.
Is that worth asking the history behind, or should I just Google it?
I don't know the history behind it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to ask about these, because I feel like I could be wrong on this, but is there another Vinegar Syndrome movie that's like Birds 5? Is there like a series of these?
Zombie 5 Killing Birds.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Zombie, okay.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about putting this disc into that case.
which is a better movie than this, though not by much.
I liked it for way different reasons, and I would honestly go as far as to say I personally could not disagree with you more on that. I thought Killing Birds was detestable but fun. That one lands in a so bad it's good for me category. This one, Birds 2, I think has some redeeming qualities that actually make it a pretty fun film.
So the guy who actually directed the film is named Rick Rosenthal, who directed Halloween 2, Bad Boys, not the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence one, but the Sean Penn one that took place in a reformatory school, American Dreamer, Ruskies, Distant Thunder, Just a Little Harmless Sex, Halloween Resurrection, Nearing Grace, and Drones. They don't mention Birds 2 because he did not take credit for it. And Alan Smithy, the history of it. Before 1968, Directors Guild rules did not permit directors to be credited under a pseudonym. This was intended to prevent producers from forcing upon directors, which would inhibit the development of their resumes. The Guild also, blah, 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 to support the auteur theory. The Smithy pseudonym was created for use on the film Death of a Gunfighter, released in 1969. During its film, lead actor Richard Widmark was unhappy with director Robert Totten and arranged to have him replaced by Don Siegel. Siegel later estimated that he had spent 9 to 10 days filming, while Totten spent 25 days. Each had enough footage. Siegel did not want to take credit. Totten refused to take credit, and that's how it was created.
Oh, interesting, man. Thank you for looking that up.
Yeah. So, hold on, before I go, the mayor got what he deserved at the end. As the coward tried to jump on the boat in the gasoline-fueled waters and was burned alive. All right. How many exploding seagulls would you give this film, Brian?
I would go with 4. I don't think it's going to work for everyone, clearly. I'm pretty sure we're all 3 rather divisive on this. I want to give it a 5. My heart wants to give it a 5, but I do realize there are some issues. I just don't think the issues bothered me quite as much as everyone else. If you're looking for... Well, I don't know, actually. I mean, I don't see why anyone would go into Birds 2 expecting like a huge like blood fest. But again, I'm wondering, because I went in with like the lowest of expectations. I'm like, there's no way Birds 2 is going to be worth a damn at all. It superseded my expectations. I feel comfortable with 4. I think it's a really fun movie. I don't really necessarily know if it's one. I always kind of like to throw in the angle of like, oh, should I get friends together with this? I think most would probably get a little bored with it, honestly. If you're like me at all and like killer animal movies and stuff of that nature, I think you'll have a good time with it. I thought it was really well made for the type of film it was. So I think 4 is a good solid score.
Matt, how many exploding seagulls would you give this film?
I'm going to go a little less. I did enjoy it, and it kind of just reminds me of a movie that, growing up, you would be flipping the channels and you would kind of always just see it on one of the channels, and you would put it on. You might watch it. You might just leave the room and come back and just kind of have it on throughout the day. And that for some reason really like sticks with me. And I looked this up on Letterboxd before we watched it. It has a 1.9, which I think is like, that's pretty low for this, I think.
Yeah.
Robert just gave me that look like he's about to go lower than that. But I'm gonna go 2.5.
Okay.
I think it's I don't think it deserves the hate. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a good watch, I thought.
I'm gonna go with half an exploding seagull. and this is my Letterboxd review. I remember watching this movie when it debuted on Showtime and thinking this movie sucks. 28 years later, that opinion remains unchanged. The only scary thing in this movie is James Naughton's constant sexual harassment of Chelsea Field's character. And here's the thing. I was excited when this movie debuted. I you know what? I'm like, someone's making a sequel to Birds. Let's watch it. And then I'm realizing, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't make a sequel to a Hitchcock film. Now, I haven't seen Psycho 2. I understand it's a good movie. But there's a reason why, Hitchcock is considered a master director and Rick Rosenthal is the guy who directed Halloween 2 and Halloween Resurrection. And
I mean, I said it earlier. I don't think the original Birds is much better than this one.
But, I mean, if you look at it just from a level of craftsmanship, it's a better film. I mean, Hitchcock is a great director.
Mm-hmm.
And I will mention this just because it's been mentioned a couple of times throughout this discussion. I just finished a couple of nights ago, my upteenth millionth rewatch of Halloween 2. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've watched that movie, but I got the 4K upgrade, and for whatever reason, it didn't stick with me. I was just like, why did I? Yeah, it has its moments that are fun. It's really not a very good film, though. I will actually say it. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is far superior.
Rob
in my
Zombie's
opinion.
Halloween 2 is a little bit too artistic.
It gets there. We've had that discussion, especially with but it's fucking brutal as shit, and I'll just leave it at that. It was okay. I'm glad I own it. I mean, it's
But before we get into our next movie, what do you guys consider your favorite horror sequel?
ooh. Sleepaway Camp 2 comes to mind. That's
Okay.
actually a pretty solid sequel.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
I have a favorite one, and it's not a good movie. It's one that I just loved when I was growing up, and I've watched it so many times. It's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. My question. Yes, that's a good one, but that's a third movie. I'm talking about the second film.
Sequel.
Yeah.
It's a sequel to the second one.
Well played. There you go.
Oh boy.
That's a good one. Shit, man.
I would say I liked Evil Dead 2 more than the
Okay.
original.
That's a great answer.
That's a
actually.
great one.
That's yeah.
That would be my number 2 choice. My pick would be Hostel 2 or Hostel Part 2.
I don't know that I've seen that. I remember the first one, but I don't think I've seen the second one.
So when the first one came out, I did not want to see it because I thought it was just another slasher. My friend Charlie dragged me to it, and look, I am not a torture porn person, but the thing that scares me about Hostel is I can see something like that actually happening. And what I love about Hostel 2, it meets all the sequel criteria. It's bloodier. It's more disturbing, but in this one, Eli Roth builds up the world where you learn more about the operation, and I thought that was fascinating. I wish he made it. I know there was a Hostel Part 3 that he was, I think, in-name producer only, and it went direct to DVD, but I really wish he came back and gave us the movie even more about the organization behind it, because
I'll agree that with the Hostel films specifically, I have a love-hate thing because the material is there, like the story is there, and I love it. But God, I hate Eli Roth's characters. I fucking hate his characters in his films. They just come across so like wooden and just very just like stereotypical of whatever.
Whoa! They are not. Laura German's character in Hostel Part 2, he did something so subtly that she might be the first queer final girl in cinema history.
Well, the history there might be cool, but I don't remember any damn performance in any of his movies that I've ever been.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Roger Bart's character, and I mean, don't get me started because I think Hostel Part 2 is actually better than Hostel 1. But
okay. I'm just throwing that out there.
One day
Eli Roth, I think it's
fight.
Yeah, right. Can we not just stop all the hate?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, annoyed Brian. All right,
you're tearing us apart.
All right, let's talk about let's talk about the Ty West film, the prequel to X, Pearl. This is the story of Pearl and how she became the murderous old lady that we saw in X. So I'm gonna.
Is it?
I've been most excited to hear Matthew talk about this because of his response in the group earlier. I'm very excited.
So I'm gonna start out by just saying this. I am not a fan of prequels. I think prequels are unnecessary. I think they, in some cases, ruin the movie that's supposed to come after it. But I think the biggest problem I have with prequels is there's no tension. I know what's going to happen to these main characters later on. Like, I don't care about like the Leatherface prequels of how Leatherface became Leatherface. I know what he's going to do in later films, and that to me is the interesting part. If someone wants to do a prequel to the Dead series of Romero, why? There's no need, because one, there's really no continuity between any of the films except for Tom. Why can't I remember his last name? The special effects guy.
Savini.
His character from Dawn of the Dead showing up in Land of the Dead as a zombie. But I think prequels, for the most part, don't add anything. And in the case with Pearl and X, it does not add anything to her story. That said, I think based on Mia Goth's performance and in some ways how bonkers this movie was, I'm glad I went and saw it. So Matt, we know you have a very different reaction, and let's talk about that, and then that'll go into our conversation about it.
No, I mean, I'm glad I saw it too, but it is kind of what you were saying, how, like, you know, prequels do usually end up being pointless, but I felt like this one was one that could have not been pointless. You know, it's the story of the two old people in X, like, I thought was the most interesting part of the movie, and I was actually super excited to see, you know, like, what led them to that, how they got there. Like, you know, was this something that they just started to do when, you know, these people came to film a movie, or is this like decades of them doing this? And they just didn't. You know, this movie took place in, what did it say, 1918?
1918, yes.
And the X was in the 70s. They had 60 years they could have covered, and they decided to spend like 3 days. So it's just like, to me, it was like they had the opportunity to really open something up there, and it ended up just being pointless. There was no point to it.
They did open. I'm sorry, Brian.
Well, all I was going to say really quick was I do agree. That is actually my only complaint of the film, is I think everyone wanted to see how Pearl, you know, kind of reeled Harold, right? Yes, Harold, yeah. Into this whole lifestyle.
So I will get to that, because I think they kind of explain it in a not roundabout way. They gave us a very amazing character study of Pearl. Here was a girl who was mentally abused, more than likely physically abused, and they kind of alluded that she was sexually abused. I mean, this girl is tragic. I
didn't really pick up on those things.
Oh, the way her mom talked to her?
I can see the, like, mentally abused. Who were you saying, like, her dad was, like, sexually abusing her?
There were hints to it in the film.
Okay. Well, there were hints that when they were talking about, you know, because this, actually, I want to take just the 2 seconds to actually throw this in the conversation as well. So this one was you know, filmed during COVID and everything. I think there's scenes where everyone's wearing masks and stuff, and they kind of introduced the whole aspect of the flu that was going around at that time and killing all those people. So I thought that was fantastic. But so Mia Goth, her father in the movie, is very ill and very sick. And at one point, when Mia Goth and her mom are getting into this kind of argument about, like, you know, her mom's like, why aren't you a better daughter, essentially, than you are? She's like, you know, do you want to end up like your father, who, it kind of alludes to the fact that he maybe had like syphilis or something like that. Like, maybe it wasn't the flu at all, you know, because if you really think about everything in context, like, she basically alluded to him being a little bit of a man whore, because she was talking about Mia Goth, like, you don't want to be that kind of a girl. And plus, if they're so worried about bringing the flu into the house, then why does she want Mia Goth to stay there with her dad who has it? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I never thought that her dad had the flu.
Yeah, he didn't
Okay.
have he had he didn't have
Yeah.
the Spanish flu. He had something else, but there was a scene when she was in the bathtub and her father was there. It just kind of started making me connect the dots.
Oh, see, I didn't take it that way, and I loved that scene. See, I kind of took it, and you guys can interrupt me, but I think I may be on the same wavelength with Matt here, where it was like one of my favorite things to take away from the film is just like the real subtlety of like you're not okay. You know, like we you know, the movie kind of teaches us to not be a fan of the mom, and it does a really good job of that for rightful reasons. But just that slow little thing of like, I see the things that you do when you think you're alone and no
Mhm.
one's watching. I liked that aspect
Oh,
of like
I thought
she
that.
just it's like we can feel for her because we see how she's treated, but the idea that she's being treated like that because she might just not be okay, I thought was like genuinely creepy.
But the again with the way the mom treated her, I think led to what Pearl did and the things that she was doing. Like Pearl's one big thing is she wanted to get out into the world. She wanted to leave. She wanted to become a dancer and whatever follies that was. And she's like, a lot of people today, they just want to be famous. And that's what she did. And she obviously didn't have the talent in her her dance audition, which I thought kind of was reminiscent of when Mac and the gang from It's Always Sunny went to their high school reunion and they did a huge dance number. And then it turned out to be the biggest piece of shit ever. Reality perception. And I mean, you saw that when she kind of went into her little fantasy world during the dance sequence, that's where she lived and she would do anything to get there. Um, I think her mind started crumbling long before we even met her in this film. Her husband, kind of fascinating that he was from a rich family and he left them to go work on that farm and married Pearl and went off to World War One. I don't think as a character he was all mentally there to begin with, and I bet you he had a severe mental breakdown and when he realized that she killed his sister. We should say there is going to be a ton of spoilers in
Yeah.
this review.
Sorry.
that
I'll put that at the beginning.
that
Yeah.
that he would do anything to protect her to make sure it didn't happen again, and over the years he became an accomplice to it, kind of like the old guy in Let the Right One In, not only to take care of the vampire girl but to bring victims to her. And what better way to bring victims than to have a boarding house on the property?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just this whole conversation as a whole kind of leads me to why I think personally that it was such a fantastic film. I do think it's very difficult to conventionally compare X and Pearl.
Well, you can't compare them. They're not the same genre.
Sure,
X is a horror film, a slasher.
right.
Pearl is a drama.
Not. Yeah,
It's a melodrama.
I think honestly, like there's a ton of other stuff I want to say about this, by the way. I'm not trying to cut to the end. I personally think that like this could be one of the most interesting trilogies that has ever been created. And I can't wait to watch them like in chronological order just to see how that feels. I loved Pearl, and the more it's one of those films that the more I think about it, the creepier I do find it. I think it's going to be one that I'm going to get more out of with each watch. Um, yeah.
I mean, Ty West is not my favorite filmmaker. Earlier today, I rewatched House of the Devil. I like House of the Devil, but it's a slow burn.
Mhm.
What I liked about X, it wasn't a slow burn. He pretty much got straight to it in that film. Pearl is a very, very slow burn. I think when we get to that monologue with her talking to her sister-in-law, and we really see her collapse, and the sister-in-law fucking scared, knowing I'm probably not going to make it out of here alive. And then that chase where she's yelling for help, and you know that there's no help because they are in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Mhm.
Or when she brings the projectionist home, and I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Ryan Murphy's Hollywood. Fantastic in both. The way he realizes, oh shit, I just slept with a crazy woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a good part.
and both of those scenes that you just mentioned, I also like. I sometimes I think it's really hard to land like humor after like deep, heavy scenes sometimes, and I think this one did it really well. It's kind of tropey in a way, and I don't even think from like a horror standpoint. I would think more from like a comedy moment, but like you would have that deep moment between Mia Goth and her stepsister, and then at the end of it, it cuts to the stepsister. She's like,
Sister-in-law.
or sister-in-law. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and she's just like, okay, I think I should go. It worked really well. And with the projectionist, I liked how just like she's like, why are you leaving? This is kind of the first time we're seeing her sort of amplified, getting kind of crazy about like clearly has some attachment issues. Like, what did I do wrong, kind of a thing. And he just looks at her. He's like, you're scaring me. Like you're freaking me the fuck out, lady. Hey, you're a crazy bitch, but you fuck
And here's the thing, the projectionist was not a good person.
I liked the whole aspect that they brought in with him as far as living like the bohemian lifestyle. I didn't really take it as in he's a bad guy. It just sort of made sense. Like he just kind of does his thing and then moves on. I didn't really have any kind of anger towards him.
If he lived, he was going to go to France to make porno movies once the war was done. But no, I really liked Pearl. Was it my favorite movie that I've seen over the last couple weeks? It was better than Don't Worry, Darling, but not as good as Barbarian.
I have a question about the character Pearl.
Yes.
Why does she have a southern accent when she has two very German parents?
Because she was the one who was born in Texas. And no. Here's the thing. She probably wanted to fit in so bad. I'm going to guess she was not homeschooled. Which would have made a lot of sense for her character, especially how overprotective her mom was. But she was born there, and she probably spoke English more outside of the home than at home.
Yeah.
I'm mad because you're right. Wait, does she? But I like Robert's explanation, so I'm going to go with that.
I am a genius,
The movie also
Oh shit! Let's dial it back.
The movie also did one of these other things that I hate when movies do. In X, probably my favorite line of the movie was when Pearl does her like first kill with the like director guy who's trying to drive away in the van, and she like leans over to her ear and she's like, let me show you what I can do, or something like that. And when Pearl and her sister-in-law were sitting outside of the church waiting to go in for their dance, the sister-in-law said it. She's like, this is your time to show them what you can do. And they did like an echo sound effect to make it stand out. And it's like, oh, it's that thing she said in the other movie. And I just like hate when movies do that.
I didn't pick up on that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that either, but that's what somebody who's supportive would say to the other person.
It was the way they like put extra like voice effects over it that I could tell like, oh, they're really trying to like harken back to that.
I did hope that when Pearl and the sister-in-law sat at the table, this is like a really small little thing, so I think it fits in with what you're saying there. I kind of expected it to be lemonade because
Hmm.
they drank lemonade in X, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a lemonade thing.
Yeah.
We're going to get why she likes lemonade.
It's the country. Duh.
Yeah, but they just drank water. They should have drank lemonade. Come on.
I bet you lemonade was not as available. I don't know. I don't know the history of lemonade.
No, it just kind of seemed like a perfect setup, because whenever Mia Goth's character meets Pearl in X, and they sit down at the table and have the lemonade, I figured it would just be a little nod there, but no Minute Maid lemonade there.
It would have been country time.
Country time. That's right. Yeah.
But one thing I want to also say is this movie was written while they were in quarantine. And I did love the parallels that it had of coronavirus with the Spanish flu of 1918.
Yeah.
I thought they could have been a little bit more of an explanation on it, but I thought it was really good.
You would think while they were quarantined, they would have had way more time to come up with a better story.
I don't know. I thought the story was good.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see a movie where someone humped a scarecrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an interesting scene too. This one felt way more. I know you guys will know what I'm talking about. This one felt way more A24 than X did to me. I was like, okay, yeah, this is.
Again, X was a horror film. This
Yeah.
was a drama, and I'm excited to see what the third one is.
Maxine, yes,
But it can't be a horror film.
why not?
Because I think Ty West is playing with genres.
Okay, that's an interesting thought for sure.
And the horror element of X was the old lady. That story is over. It could be another horror story set on the streets of LA or in porno sets. But I have something more that it's probably going to be involved with her father's church.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to bring some closure to that. I also wondered if they might, and I don't even know. Obviously, we don't know what kind of film we're going to get with Maxine yet. It's all just up to our guesses at this point. But like, going back on the whole wanting to see more about Pearl and Harry. Well, no, I think we're done with Pearl. I was going to say I hope we get like maybe some flashback scenes that do show how she reeled him into that, but I don't know. I don't think that would happen.
No, I think
Now that
Pearl,
we're having this discussion.
I think Pearl's story is over. Now, what we could find out is that her family and Pearl's family are connected somehow.
Maybe.
Yeah. One more thing on Pearl, actually, because I was just thinking about the very, very ending there. So our film ends with Harold coming back from the war, and we get what I thought was a fantastic closing to the film of just Mia Goth kind of
Yeah.
just smiling maniacally, and it just slowly encompasses her face until the film was over.
Well, I mean, Harold walking in on the most disturbing family dinner of all time.
Yeah. I really, I feel ashamed that I didn't see it coming. That I was actually a little taken aback by the music in this film. Like it's very fantastical, like Wizard of Oz kind of style, like
Mhm.
sort of things. And I actually loved like when the film started. You can quickly with this one sort of see what type of film you're getting in as far as the style goes. Not necessarily like your content, but I loved those choices where I was like, this is great because you know even though this is not a horror film, there is like a very tremendous like deep feeling of like I would even say dread like throughout the film. And maybe it's because we have prerequisited it with X. Like we know where this is going. So he could play with these, like Ty West could play with these different techniques as far as like, okay, they kind of know where this is going. So let's put in some interesting music and stuff like that to sort of set a tone. Um,
So, yes, I'm going to go with my biggest issue of the film because you just kind of brought it up. X felt like it took place in 1979. Everything from the music choices to wardrobe felt 1979. This movie felt like a 1940s film trying to take place in 1918. One of the biggest problems I had was while they were watching the dancing movie, they had music playing. As someone who loves silent movies, at that point they would not have had the record there. They would have had the organist playing something or some sort of band playing something. So I found that to be that really bothered me throughout the entire film. And that to me was my one big strike against it. But that said, how many decaying pigs would you give this film? Matt?
Who's starting? Matt? Okay.
Man, it's a hard one for me because like I said, like you guys were saying you're excited for Maxine now, and I'm kind of like less excited now because I feel like her story isn't interesting. It's not exciting.
What are you talking about? She's driving out to Hollywood to become a porn star.
Yeah, but it's like compared to Pearl, who's been murdering for 70 years.
Again, that's why I think it's going to be that's why I think it's going to be a different genre.
Well, I kind of think it would be better to go the opposite direction and go like different genres through Pearl's timeline because I don't know. It's just something about even including this movie just like doesn't sit well with me.
So here's the thing, and it couldn't. There's no way this could have been a bigger movie because they were filming it. They probably had a quarter of the budget they had for X. They probably had a very limited cast and very limited time to make it because they were filming this on the tail end of X. It's a miracle that we even got this film. But
They could have waited.
what? Yeah, here's the thing. I think if they waited, it would not have been greenlit. It's a much smaller film. So how many?
I agree.
How many decaying pigs would you give this film?
I'm gonna give it the same exact score that I gave Birds 2. I'm gonna go 2.5.
Okay.
Because I think that it failed to do what it should have done. And I'm not saying that there weren't things that weren't done great, but I just expected a lot more, I think.
Okay. Brian, how many decaying pigs would you give this one?
You know, I think that what we're getting, I don't even want to. I'm looking at it in the big picture, and I think that even though I enjoyed Pearl, I think more than Matt did, I get it. I think we are seeing, again, something really original take place. And for that reason alone, kind of bumps my score up. I think it's fantastic to have been delivered. And I don't know if this is fair on me. Maybe I'm just being biased because I haven't seen it done this way before. We have this, we have my favorite horror movie of this year come out, and then we're delivered a prequel that I'm like, holy fuck, was that different? But god damn, did I love it. And I think it's just going to be up to the individual, and I don't think anyone's ever going to be wrong on their outlook of this. Of like, it's very unconventional. I'm sorry, I'm spouting off. I loved it. I know there's a lot of talk about Mia Goth's performance, and yes, I think it deserves it. I think she has really put herself up there as far as being like, I'm a fucking good actor, and I deserve to be seen. Aside from that, the film as a whole, Pearl, if you try to even compare it to X, I think it's very hard to do. I really love the idea of what we've seen so far, I am actually going to go with a 5. I am completely enamored by it. Um, and I thought it was fantastic. It was just not what I was expecting. Like it's one of those rare times where I went to the theater and I watched it and I'm like, holy shit. And I don't mean like a quick, like, oh, well, I thought this about, I thought this about. It's like, no, I have to process this. And to me, that's important. When a film can accomplish that, I think that's really good for the type of stuff that I'm into. So yeah, I say a 5. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think if someone is going to go to the film expecting a tremendous amount of horror or something, then they probably are going to be very let down. Or if they are looking, maybe for more clear lines and stuff, which I'm not saying that isn't a bad thing, Matt, but like I get the reasons you didn't care for it. Just for whatever reason, it sort of worked for me because I never in a million years would have guessed that they would have tried to have that much of a different dynamic between films. I thought I was going to get into a slasher film, and it just surprised me so much that I just fell on the side of the fence, and I'm like, holy shit, they got me.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one coming.
I think if this movie would have come out first, I would have liked it more.
Yeah,
but then I think you would have not liked X as much.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Again, I don't think you can compare them because they are different genres. I think you can talk about the director and his skills, but you can't compare them. I'm going to give it 4 decaying pigs. The biggest problem, again, was it felt out of time. But, again, Mia Goth was the glue that held this movie together. And I'm very excited after Maxine to see what kind of career she has. Is she going to be a genre actress, or are we going to be seeing her in 10 years thanking the Academy for a Best Supporting or Best Actress?
I can see that.
So that does it for this week's episode. Brian, is there anything else you want to talk about before we skedaddle? Any good movies you watched this week?
I've watched quite a few. I've been back on an SOB kick. I watched Bloodletting. There's a new company out on the block, Tempe Digital. Their first copies of their movies are coming out with autographs on the back. Anywhere ranging from like producers, writers, directors, whatever. I feel like it's very, at least what I've seen so far from them, they are really competently made SOV films from a little bit later on, 90s specifically. Bloodletting, I cannot preach enough. That is a fantastic film. That is a horror, comedy, romance film that has one of the most interesting plots I've seen in a long time. It is about a serial killer is on the loose in a town, and a woman is extremely interested in the case, and she tracks down where the killer lives and poses herself as a cosmetics salesperson, and then says to him, I'm here because I want you to teach me how to kill people. And then zaniness ensues. But it was a fantastic film. That's the first one that comes to my mind. I've watched a bunch of other stuff, but that one I think is definitely worthy.
What's the film that came out from Gunpowder and Sky about the 2 girls who kidnap a serial killer to teach them to kill?
Oh, the Tragedy Girls.
Yeah,
that is also a very good film. I personally like Bloodletting a little bit more, but it is, again, it's SOV, so you're looking at a really hard budget cut there. Tragedy Girls, I think, would probably be up a lot of people's alley. It's really well made. It's super hokey, but it's very funny.
Well, we will one day talk about that, but I'm going to propose something for next week.
Sure.
I hope both of you guys have it. It's from AGFA, Boarding House.
Yes.
Got
Weren't
it.
we supposed to do this like a couple of months ago or something.
I don't remember. That was the old Grindhouse Chic. That was before.
Yeah.
That was before we had the Grindhouse Chic Orchestra create theme music, and of our interns under the supervision of Matt create amazing opening credits.
Yes, Matt, you're killing it. With that stuff, by the way.
And
Good job,
The
Matt.
interns.
I saw that we that there's a bet that I thought it was 100 subscribers before I did the
Nope, 50. It's 50.
How far away are we from that?
We're at 46 still.
Oh, oof.
So yeah, if
Are all three of us subscribed?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, I might just get rid of my subscription too. So yeah, 4 more, and I will do the dance from Champagne and Bullets on an episode where we discuss champagne. Unless we already discussed that one, I don't remember.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we should discuss it. So next week we are going to discuss Boarding House. Also, in next week's episode, I'm going to surprise the guys here with this. We are going to take 3 titles from Vinegar Syndrome and all the partner labels to what we would want to watch on Halloween night.
Okay.
Three
I love
titles.
these challenges, but damn, they're stressful. Stressful.
They are not stressful. They are not stressful.
They are.
Also,
Okay.
once these 2 Yahoos get the Steckler set, we're going to have we are going to have Steckvember.
Ooh, I like that.
Mine mine has officially left. It went from Arizona to California and has left California. So
Oh, that makes sense to go in the opposite
yes.
direction.
yeah. Why
was-
not put it over there first?
I was surprised. I got mine shipped on Friday. I got it on Monday.
That's
Hmm.
nice. Mine's been shipping forever.
And I don't think I upped the postage on it. I think I just the regular postage that Severin, the free thing from Severin.
Yeah.
Brian, have you got your shipping notice for September yet?
No, I haven't.
Finally, I have gotten it before both of you guys.
Oh, damn. That makes sense. They emailed me earlier and they're like, "You're the new Robert." I was like, "What's that mean?"
All is right with the world. However,
I did. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
However, I got my copy of the Police Story trilogy from Diabolic, and it shipped on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It still said, "Still waiting to be shipped." I'm like, that can't be
Oh
right.
God.
So I messaged Diabolic, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry. They probably forgot to scan it. If you don't get it by middle of next week, call it or email, tell us, and we'll send you it. We'll send it out again." Got it the next day.
Really?
Did either of you guys order the 4K of Dragons Forever?
Yes, it's been delayed.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've got an order on Grindhouse Video with a bunch of other stuff, and it just keeps getting pushed back, and I'm like never gonna get these other movies. I think.
It's supposed to come out in 2 weeks. What other movies do you have? Did you order?
Well, I've got L.A. AIDS Jabber and Suburban Sasquatch.
Yeah.
I've got Dr. Lamb and the Flying Guillotine Part 2.
Ooh.
You know, you're talking about Grindhouse. I had this one bite me in the butt. So they're generally, when you choose the pick up and store option, it's generally done within 24 hours. So I went to the store and I picked up, as I told you guys last week, Child's Play and Child's Play 2 4K. And they were out at Child's Play 3. And I went on their site last night. Yeah, last night. And went on there and I seen they had Child's Play 3. I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it and pick up and store because I was off on the weekend. And God damn it, it wasn't ready. And you know what really sucked is like I'm walking through the shelves and I see it sitting there on the shelf. And I'm like, fuck. But I can't just take it and say, hey, I've already paid for this. you know,
Right.
he's probably got it in the back somewhere. It just hadn't been processed yet and brought up front. So now I have to wait.
How far of a drive is that for you?
It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Nice.
Did you guys do your pre-order for Roadhouse?
You already talked about it.
Yeah, like
Did
1
you?
second,
Okay.
1 second after it was revealed.
Okay.
Yeah, I pre-ordered it begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Are you?
But I
are
mean,
you
we'll
excited
you know
for it?
we'll talk about it. Like we'll just we already talked about it.
Yeah.
I feel anyone could have released Roadhouse. I don't. It doesn't feel special that Vinegar Syndrome is doing it.
I guess I could maybe bring something different to the topic since you guys have already discussed it. I am, and I know that Robert specifically, you've been a yearly subscriber every year for many years. I've only been able to do the half year for the last few. I think I might be starting to get to a point where I'm just going to order by title instead of worrying about doing the subscription because I'll be honest. I mean, now I am excited. I should preface this. I am excited about Roadhouse. I don't own it, and I do love that film. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I was pretty happy to add that. But I don't know. I am just very horror centric. I love horror films, and the last little bit I've just been like, eh, eh. So I don't know if I'm going to worry about subscribing as much because there's so many other labels that are putting out horror films that I want to see. So
No, that's fair. So, in my opinion, for the most part, with the exception of August, I have been excited about most of the releases that Vinegar Syndrome has been putting out this year compared to last year. August, like I was not excited about The Incredible Melting Man, the two Mexican westerns, Birds 2. Like none of these movies excited me. Like I have gone through the partner label stuff before even getting to, and the VSA before even getting to Vinegar Syndrome Prime.
which I find to be the more common answer nowadays is everyone's like, yeah, just I pick up the partner labels stuff. Like it seems like everyone is kind of on that same page nowadays. As far as like people who have been with the company for a little while, like I'll pick up the titles that I want. I'll go to the partner labels and scoop up what I want, and then I don't know. I like the idea because I have seen some movies that I never would have watched in my life had I not, bought the everything package or been a half year subscriber or whatever the case may be. And I'm happy for the company that they're branching out. I really, truly am. But I feel like I'm maybe feeling like what a lot of people who started off with the company for the idea of adult cinema and hardcore films. I feel like I'm kind of feeling that now where I'm like, man, I want horror and exploitation shit. Like that's what I gear towards.
I think those days of Vinegar Syndrome are long gone.
Yeah.
I think right now. So I think we got to look at boutique label collecting, and the scope of collecting is what has been ignored, and since the dawn of Blu-ray, for the most part, with the exception of what Dragon Dynasty put out in the early 2010s on Blu-ray, the Asian market has been pretty much ignored for us. So
Sure.
we are now going to see that as the cash cow of where the boutique labels like Eureka's there, 88 Films is there, Criterion has kind of already been dipping their toes in that market. That is where now Vinegar Syndrome has. I think we're going to see that as the last bastion of where they're going to make a lot of money. And the next part is going to be just reissues of films that other labels have discarded. But I mean, I think for schlock horror, Vinegar Syndrome is still one of the best out there.
Oh, I mean, again, I'm extremely stoked for I'm excited about some of the bigger titles. Don't get me wrong. Like whenever they announced Amityville 4K, I was like, hell yeah, because that's one of my favorite horror films. I love that movie.
It's a good one.
As mainstream as it is, I adore that film, and I'm very happy to own it in 4K.
So for me tomorrow when I get my shipment in, I think Mutant Hunt's going to be the first thing I watch. I'm so excited about that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, what the fuck just happened? I think right after that, the Blood, Gut, and Sunshine documentary.
Oh, I'm so glad I ordered that one. I can't wait to get it. I love Herschel Gordon Lewis. I can't wait.
Or Saturday Night at the Baths. I haven't decided yet because I haven't heard that movie, but that one looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, aside from the HGL documentary, I also ordered.
It's not an HGL documentary. It's about
filming in Florida.
Yeah.
Which
gave us such wonderful movies.
I associate that with Herschel.
But it also gave us such wonderful films as Sometimes Aunt Martha Does Dreadful Things, all the William Griffey films, including Stanley.
Stanley, I actually really liked that film.
Does star Chris Robinson, who directed the movie The Intruder, which came out from Garage House Pictures. Probably out of print like all the Garage House stuff is right now. So, all right. So next week.
I also got go ahead.
Oh, go on.
No, I was going to say I got KFC and Ape. I got Ape.
That's cool. I got the Western from Culture Shock, the Australian film, and Saturday Night at the Baths from Altered Innocence. And I think that's where I like their stuff from, is stuff from the 70s. Oh, and Married to the Mob, which will probably be the last thing that I watch.
I did see a post that one was really in danger of selling out with the slip. I have no interest in it.
It has sold out with the slip.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah. I think it might be Fun City's fastest selling title, which is a shame because everyone should own Natural Enemies, which we should talk about at some point before we get to Steckvember.
We've discussed that. Yeah, it's mine's coming in. It's just not going to be here, and it might be here with my next package. I think it should be.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, November is for Steckler.
Are we gonna have a theme for October, or just kind of some randos?
Let's just do randos. Everyone has themes for October. Okay. But we'll be back next week with the 3 Vinegar Syndrome from Vinegar Syndrome Prime, any of their sub-labels and partner labels for a triple feature that'll shock and delight you for Halloween. As always, I am Robert Schneider, joined by Matt Armstrong and the always on time Brian Baldwin.
Hey, I was early today.
Yeah, you were. Early. I mean, time must be early in Hanoi. we will see you guys next week. Thank you.